Okay, thanks. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Laura, first things first. If How do I say this without sounding nasty? But if the downtown Veterans Administration ran their administration like you run yours locally in Macomb, the veterans would be so much more happier. Unfortunately, I happen to have the displeasure of going down there to try to apply for my Selfridge Air Force admissions card. Stated that all I needed was my DD 214 and my birth certificate and driver's license, and that's not the case. Other than my wife's birth certificate, my marriage license, my wife's driver's license, my wife's social security, and a lot of other things that were needed, and that they would not accept anything else other than that. I just finally threw up my hands in desperation and walked out. So my point being, if veterans come to you and say, "Hey, how do I get a pass to get onto Selfridge?" Please do not tell them. Just go down to the VA with your DD 214 and your birth certificate, because that is not the way it works. And it looked like mayhem down there is probably the best way I could describe it. As I said, if they ran the VA downtown like you run yours in Macomb, how much better off the veterans would be. So just a word to the wise, and I thought it'd be something that you could pass on to the veterans when they ask for that information. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you. Thanks, Laura.
I will do that.
Okay.
Laura, right now, and I'm just going to ask the commissioners, I don't have anybody else on the mic or on the screen to speak. If anyone was trying to get on there that wasn't able to, please let me know. Otherwise, we're going to go to a vote to receive and file. So, all right, Mike, we'll go to a vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Item 8B, Macomb County Equalization Report. I have Kristen Seeloff here, the Director of Equalization, but can I first get a motion to receive and file?
Commissioner Romano, motion to receive and file Macomb County Equalization Report.
Okay, Commissioner Romano.
Support, Commissioner Drollet.
Okay, Commissioner Drollet, support. Hi, Kristen. Are you able to speak to us?
I sure am, if you can hear me.
We can, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here to bring you this year's values. So there's just a couple of areas of the report that I would like to point out to you. And I'm hoping that the page numbers are the same. I did check them, Mike, right before the meeting happened. So I'm hoping that they are the same. Page 36 of the agenda packet is the SEV versus taxable value line graph. And this gives a really good graphical representation of the historical relationship between the SEV and the taxable values within the county since 2005. 2020 values show an increase in the equalized values of 7.2% and a taxable value of 4.7% from the 2019 values. CPI this year is 1.9%. It's a little bit less than it was last year. So we do have an increase in both, which are in line with each other. Last year's increases in SEV were 7.2, and the taxable value increase was 5. But again, there was a little bit higher CPI last year, so that's what I'm attributing the difference in those two values. We are, it's kind of hard to say. I know you guys always want to know, are we close to where we were before the values, before we had the recession? We're still not there yet, but again, the circumstances today are a little bit different than they were last year. Now we have veterans exemptions, so we've lost quite a bit of value due to those, whereas back in 2008 we didn't have the veterans exemptions. And then, of course, we're almost completed with the elimination of the industrial personal property. So that has, I believe that comes off the roll completely in 2021. Might be 2022 now. I don't have my little note right next to my desk right now. But so the time is a little bit different. Had those things not been removed, had those exemptions not been put in place, we would definitely be back to where we were prior to the recession. So moving on through the report, page 38 is where the beginning 2020 recommended county equalized values begin. It's a 4-page tabular report that I have to present to you guys. This is the values that you guys will be approving with this report today. Page 42 is where all the local unit summaries for the 2020 values for each property class begin, and the county totals are on page 66. Let's see, page 71 of the packet is the summary of the 2020 county equalized value changes. We have an overall market increase this year of 5.94 and 1.27% of new construction. So together, that's the 7.2%. These amounts, again, are very similar to what we had for 2019. Market increase was 5.97 and new construction was at 1.24. If you turn to the next page, which is 72, you get a taxable value by city and township. This is a pretty involved table here. We have ad valorem taxable values. We have rent zone amounts on this page. We have PILT amounts on this page. And then we have the 4028 breakdown. I put the 4028 breakdown on here because when I'm doing millage reduction fractions, and that's something that everybody outside of this body, but all of the taxing authorities are real interested in, I have to keep track of each of those values because depending on the type of millage, it uses one or the other of those taxable values. So that's why all of those are included in the report. On page 75, this is always something that everybody is interested in. It's the average residential true cash value. And at the bottom of that page, you'll see that the county average is 209,289. And then the last page of my formal report is the ad valorem taxable value change. And for those of you who are really paying attention, you'll see that the value here is different than the one that's on that graph. And that's, again, the one on the graph is the one that I use for millage reduction fractions. This one here is the ad valorem taxable value. So it has those PILT properties and those rent zone values in there, whereas the one on that graph does not. It's the 4028 one. And if there is any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you now.
So commissioners, I don't have anybody up on the list to speak. So I'm just going to point that out. So it looks like, Kristen, you did a great job. No one has any questions.
Good.
And thank you for being here. And I will take, we have a motion. So commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 13-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Item number 9, Health and Human Services Committee recommendations, which were waived by Committee Chair Lucido. 9A, COVID budget amendment, Health Department, Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan grant to increase capacity for COVID-19 support by $25,000. Can I get a motion for that first?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move A through E in their entirety.
Support A through E.
Well, that's fine. I'm just not sure who's there to talk on each one. I guess if you want, we can do that, but I'm going to give each, I'm not sure if Gary's on the line or Vicky's going to talk to all of them. Vicky, are you there right now? Are you going to speak to all of these?
This is Bill Riddell. I'm on the line for the Health Department.
All right, so Bill, I have you looking to speak to A and B. Commissioner Drolet, can we do A and B first?
Sure. I'll revise it to A and B.
Thank you. Can I have the support?
Support Kleinfeld.
I supported it before. I'll support this.
Okay, great, Commissioner Duzic. So Bill Rodella, Director and Health Officer, would you like to comment on both of the grants on A and B?
Thank you. The Health Department has received 2 grants to support the work we're doing in COVID-19. The first is from the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan. They provided us a grant of $25,000 to help support staff, any of our overtime, any supplies or equipment that we need. And also the State of Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has provided their a grant of $150,000, also to support staffing, overtime, supplies, equipment, all those items necessary to support our response to COVID-19. So again, we're asking the board to amend our health general fund by those amounts, $25,000 and $150,000, to support the activities I just described.
Great. I do not see, oh, Commissioner Brown wishes to speak. Commissioner Brown? He was on and then he disappeared. So Commissioner Brown, I'm going to ask you if you want to unmute and tell me if you meant to delete yourself from that or if you're, hello. Thought I heard something. All right. Well, I don't have any other speakers. Commissioner Brown, you can maybe ask if you can figure out how to get off mute at some point. *6 is the magic 2 buttons. But other than that, since we don't have them, please vote. Thanks, Bill.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Now, Commissioner Drolet, if you'd like to continue C through E, Gary.
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
did we vote for B? Because all that came up was A.
Mike, you did have it that A and B were on that, should have been on that vote, correct?
Correct. The title is just so long that only so much can fit on the screen.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we voted on both of them. Thank you.
Great. Can I get a motion for, it looks like Gary Cutler's on the line, so he can speak to, it looks like C, D, and E. So can I get a motion for 9C, D, and E?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Well, the first two voices I heard were Commissioner Drolet and Commissioner Duge again, so I'm going to go with that. And then, Gary, are you still with us? I think I saw you a minute ago on here.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Gary.
Not only am I with
Azar,
who is our division director, and she'll speak on these budgets.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. The first budget I'd like to speak on is the
Yeah, I think we have two phones unmuted in the same area.
Okay. You guys hear me?
Me now?
Yes, that's much better.
Great. Okay, so the first $100,000 grant through United Way was specific to providing services with obviously the increased demand that's come about with the pandemic, specifically to provide food to supplement the diets of vulnerable seniors, as well as food through our emergency food resources through the Macomb Food Program, as well as expanded housing services and assistance, and diapers and wipes for our Head Start families that typically would receive those in the classroom.
All right. You're going to speak to all three of these?
I am.
Okay, good.
The next one was specific to the Macomb Food Program, and that was $20,000 to help us purchase additional food as an increased demand resulted. Therefore, that money directly went to the purchase of food to distribute throughout our network of 62 pantries throughout Macomb County. And lastly, the other grant through United Way was for shelters. So that was also $20,000, and that was to support rent and mortgage assistance, and again, with the increased demand, to be able to support families who are experiencing, to avoid homelessness and to support rent and mortgage assistance as those needs came in. And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
I'll let you, I have three speakers right now. So let me just stop and ask if they want to speak to one of the first ones, the first two that you spoke to. Commissioner Kleinfeld is first.
Chair, I was just going to say that all of these obviously are good news. And I just wanted to reiterate what you said and remind commissioners when they make a motion in support to say their names. Thank you.
Commissioner Duje is on the line. Go ahead, Commissioner Duje.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question I have is as far as the food program. You've got $20,000 here. Frankly, with a county our size and what's going on now, are we going to be getting more money for that program?
Yes, we are. This was a grant opportunity specific through United Way for support right in the onset. So when the order came through, where was it, around the 16th, this was the first of many grant opportunities that we jumped on. So there is definitely additional funding that's coming through to support additional food expenses to get out to the community.
Okay, and last question, are we having problems in the distribution portion of this with either volunteers or people that are involved in this?
No, actually, we have a great amount of volunteers through staff that have been redeployed at the food program, and we've basically been able to continue to make emergency boxes because that's the distribution model that we've gone to, and we've been able to pack boxes consistently and continue to get the food out into the community as a result.
All right, that's very good news. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. You're talking about my favorite subject, which are grants, and I just want to commend Bill Rodella and Gary Cutler and their crew. I'm a firm believer, ask and you shall receive, and if you don't ask, you're not going to receive. I'm sure the grants that we received are great, and I'm sure there's probably more out there that you're looking into. I just want to commend you in doing it. I'm looking here at 150, 100, 25, 20, and 20. That's a lot of money that we're getting as grants, and I'm sure there's more out there, but anything that you can do to alleviate us in the general fund and make it easier for us and everybody just by getting these grants naturally increases it better for everybody. So I just want to say thank you, guys. We appreciate your effort, you and your crew. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Romano. I don't have anybody else to speak on this at this moment, so if you would like to finish with E, that would be great.
We included that one in our earlier statement.
Okay, great. Great, then I don't have any other speakers, so please vote.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes 13-0.
Great. All right, item 10A, Public Services Committee recommendation waived by Committee Chair Myjack. Contract with Spicer Group for the 2020 Bridge Inspection Program of $65,000. Can I have a motion to approve that contract? And then we'll hear from Brian Santo.
Commissioner Romano, contract for the Spicer Group, move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Romano.
I'll support. It's Myjack support.
Commissioner Myjack supports. Brian, are you there? I see you on my screen. Mr. Santo?
Oh, yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, yourself?
Good. All right, you're up.
Just seeking approval of a contract for our 2020 Bridge Inspection Program, an amount not to exceed $65,000. We have basically 223 county bridges within the county that we have to evaluate on every 2-year basis, and this would facilitate those evaluations for those bridges.
All right. I don't see any speakers for this. Brian, how far does $65,000 get us? Do you have any idea? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of bridges that are out there that are in bad shape. Where does $65,000 do? Do you have any idea for us, or did I put you on the spot?
No, that would be for all bridges within the 2-year period. We do half 1 year and half the other year. So that would be for the inclusion of the 223 bridges over a 2-year span.
Okay. All right, great. Looks like we're getting a lot for our money on that then. I don't have any other speakers, and we have a motion. Please vote.
So this is a bridge loan, right?
I'm going to have to find your mute button.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item 11, I'm sorry, resolution 24660, resolution to renew and extend the local state of emergency for COVID-19 through May 22nd.
Motion to approve.
Motion, and I have support by Commissioner Duge. You have a motion to, I have a second. Mr. Sauger, I have you as support.
You got it.
All right, great. I'm not sure. Vicky, I'm not sure if Vicky, I don't see Vicky on the line, but I'm not sure if she's
I'm
on.
not here, Bob.
Oh, hi, Vicky.
Here, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Floor is yours.
Okay, great. In your packet today, in addition to the request for the resolution, we are presenting some reports to you of our activities since March 9th. We're actually on day 37 for those that are counting of our COVID response. The written report that you have is about 5 pages. I'm certainly not going to go through that. I'm going to highlight some of the items in there. And then I am going to go through the supply list in a little more detail, and then the financial report that's attached as well. Obviously, we know we've been having our emergency declaration since March 13th as a county. We have 23 other local declarations in place in the county in one form or another. Most of those with extensions, just like we're going through the process. State of Michigan has an emergency declaration and a disaster declaration in place. So both of those are running concurrent. And right now, those are in place till April 30th. I'm now going to go into some individual reports and just highlight some of the things we've been doing through the EOC process and with our departments. With Community Action, just talked a little bit about the grants that they've received. I know last time we spoke, obviously taking care of our vulnerable populations is extremely important to all of us. So in regards to senior services and their Meals on Wheels program, their congregate care program and senior outreach, we've served almost 40,000 meals in the county, essentially from March 9th through April 10th. We've helped over 2,000 meals. We've taken over 862 individual type calls just within that program alone. For food pantry program, we have 59 out of 62 of the pantries open in the county, serving over 7,200 individuals, and we've had food boxes just under 6,000. Bob, can you still hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, we lost our connection, so we're trying to figure it out. Sorry for the pause.
Nope. You sound good. Nope, you're fine.
All right, thank you. I'm going to move down to the Head Start program, and just to let you know, we've supported over 1,000 families still with our Head Start program with educational resources, learning opportunities, and diapers. And one of our larger partnerships in serving vulnerable populations is the connections that we're making with our homeless coalition organizations throughout the county and support that we're trying to provide with them. Moving on specifically to emergency management. As a reminder, again, aside from the county, we have 23 local jurisdictions that we are the emergency management program for. And we are also working and coordinating with Clinton Township and Warren, who have their own programs. In order to sustain that process, there are conference calls that happen 3 times a week with our emergency management liaisons in each of those communities. We've established weekly phone calls with law enforcement, fire, and EMS. Some of the things we're doing there, we do have a COVID response plan. Obviously, we have our emergency operations plan and our continuity of operations plan that we have been operating under, but in the last executive order from the governor, she required a specific COVID response plan. That is in draft format as we speak. And then another one of our big activities is the equipment and supplies that we're running through the EOC. And the big items there that we're looking at are personal protective equipment,
Well, that one you actually lost you on. So, Vicky, I lost you. I don't know if anybody else is with you that might be on the meeting that you could unmute their phone, but looked like we lost you from the meeting. I'm gonna give Vicky just a minute to try to get back in. Is there anybody else from the executive's office that could speak a little bit to this that's on the line, or maybe one of our staff can call Vicky and see what we can do to help her out?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we're talking with the staff, or us staff are talking to try to communicate that over. I do see that she's no longer in the meeting, but there are a couple other members of the executive's office that are trying to join, including Michelle and Mark, I think. So.
Okay. All right. We'll give it a minute, and then if we don't have anything, we're going to have to move to 12, and then wait for Vicky to come back on. I would imagine before we take this vote. Nope, I hear somebody.
Nope, they haven't joined just yet, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do you have high hopes that it'll be shortly, or should we move on, Mike?
I think it'd be fine to move on. We can definitely go back without skipping a beat.
Okay. Oh,
Bob,
hello.
I'm back on.
Oh, hi. Okay, you're here. Great. Vicky, I can hear you, so if you'd like to continue where you left off, that'd be fine.
Sure. Can you tell me where I stopped? I couldn't tell from.
I really can't tell you exactly where you stopped.
I can. She
I
stopped
can.
the access to PPE.
40,000 meals sent to the, you've distributed 40,000 meals for the home, for the Meals on Wheels, and then you were cut off, Vicky, so you're on from there.
There you go.
Yeah. PPE. Oh, gotcha. Thank you. So yes, under emergency management, we are distributing personal protective equipment and a lot of cleaning supplies, and I'll come back to that sheet at the end. I'm going to move on now to Finance Department. Again, there's a detailed budget report that is attached that I'll also come back to. But as was talked about earlier on the agenda, there are a number of grants that are coming in already that we are tracking and trying to coordinate. One of the largest ones that we're just in the process of doing is the CARES Act grant, unknown amount at this time, but we have started to process paperwork to be eligible to receive under that program. The Community Action Grants we covered already today on the agenda. We will have grant funds coming in from FEMA, which is our typical reimbursement grant when we have presidential disaster declarations. That is a reimbursement grant, and generally the federal government covers 75%, and we're responsible for 25%. You have the two grants from the Health Department that were mentioned today, and then the Small Business Relief grant items just under $1 million that we are monitoring as well. And then we do have a donation that we're working on from AT&T. The other item that Finance has worked on extensively with Human Resources is to do employee time tracking. A lot of that is running through payroll, but we are working on a process as well to capture regular time, if you would, for employees that essentially have been reassigned to covering COVID operations. So our goal is to have a comprehensive report at the end of this, and have a clear idea of how much time was spent in the county on our response. In regards to Health Department, as of today, at least as of our 10 a.m. report and the submittal of this report, we had 3,423 cases and 281 deaths. Our first case was reported on March 13th. As part of that process, they've done over 2,600 contact investigations. They've had to train and redeploy over 44 nurses and environmentalists to help with those investigations. They have their helpline that is up and running where they've had over 5,000 calls, and they're basically still averaging close to 100 calls a day. In regards to activities by Human Resources and Labor Relations, obviously a significant amount of time and concern has been spent on our own employees and with their well-being and their safety and security has been at the front for us, and I think you can see that in some of the initiatives we've undertaken. A few of the most significant items coming out of HR is we provided the 2 weeks of COVID paid off time. That was before the federal government came out with their plan, so we're running both of those plans right now. Another item that came out that may seem insignificant, but really has a huge bearing considering where we're at, is that we began to provide health insurance on the date of hire for new employees. Basically, it used to be 30 days after date of hire. Different benefits would start to kick in, but we recognize that people are in between jobs. They've committed to come here as a new hire, more than likely left the previous job and would be someplace in the middle. So we wanted to make sure that we could take care of those people. Another area that HR has stepped to the forefront on and took the lead on and really were the creative brains behind it, and that was led by Carlin Semlo, was they took over the process for doing reassignments for employees who could be reassigned to another department. So with them, we created the Sign Up Genius platform that we're using. 18 departments have contributed over 100 employees and have filled nearly 300 assignments. They have worked in the Meals on Wheels program, the food warehouse, sorting and packing boxes. They've done phone bank assistance and have even helped out on the census. So when we talk about a need for volunteers and that we're able to continue these programs, that really goes back to our employees and our department heads stepping up and taking the lead on that.
I'm going to ask her.
Marv, I have people on the list to talk though, so can we let her finish and then go from there? Go ahead, Vicki. Sorry. Vicki, you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you again. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Going to move on to IT. Obviously, a lot of IT in the work because of our transitioning workforce, as well as a lot of the public information that we needed to get up rather quickly. So IT has provided the support for our website and a lot of changes that we've had to make there. They've processed 345 of 385 ticket requests through April 10th, again, just in a mere 5 weeks. They've been able to get all of those handled. They've given remote access to those working from home. So over 2,000 connections were made within 2 weeks' time. Should really be commended for that and how quick they were able to do that. We have over 500 licensed now for WebEx solution, again, to make meetings between departments and other groups possible so that work and communication can continue. And then as part of a program under Head Start, they were able to quickly secure 1,000 kid-friendly tablets. So we can continue to try to offer learning opportunities to the children in the Head Start program. I'm going to move on to the Joint Information Center. This is probably one of the largest areas that really helped us out in the beginning to get organized, was the public information and internal information that needs to go on. They've been involved in all aspects of the website management, making sure the updates get on there, the information content within there, obviously working with specialized departments. They have been instrumental in doing all of our press releases, handling the media, and they are the ones that help to monitor our internal COVID-19 email group, as well as our partners email group and our donations. And they help to keep us on track and make sure that we're answering people in a timely fashion and that we don't miss anything from the operations side. Next is planning and economic development, the Small Business Relief Grant Fund and Loan Program. Again, $930,000. There are over 2,000 grant applications, and as just came out today with the press release, they made 148 awards to small businesses under that program. One of the other key areas is all the mapping and design work that they've done. The mapping has really helped to identify areas, whether it's food distribution, areas for those in need. We've done it for medical facilities. They've done all the mapping for all the dashboard and health-related information that we have out on our website. And of course, while all this is going on as well, they have been doing critical outreach with the census and keeping us updated. And currently, we are ranked 18th in the nation for our responses as a county. Last few items, wanted to mention the work that we're doing with educational facilities in the county. We've partnered with Macomb Community College and the local school districts. All of those institutions across the county have participated in different types of donations. They've been giving us cleaning supplies. They've had food in their pantries that they've been able to donate to us. Macomb Community College, we have agreements with them for facility usage if needed. And actually, one of the unique things they've done too is we reached out to them for some personnel support. So they've assigned 3 people to us from the college that have been helping us with our supplies that have been coming in, and they've really handled the logistics piece and with the inventory and distribution of all the equipment that we've gotten in. In addition, with the ISD and the local districts, we have a liaison from the Emergency Management Office that participates with them directly and in weekly conference calls, and they've really done a big push with their food programs that they have going on and distributing information about the call centers that we have in place to help people, as well as our census intake. Last key area that we've been working on is broad-based, is the whole hospital, healthcare, long-term care facilities, assisted living sites. There are multiple departments and agencies in the county that are participating in that. We've been doing the planning for their surge capacity at the hospitals. We are doing mass fatality planning that has been going on that continues as well. We're participating with them in tracking and providing them with personal protective equipment and supplies. And other key areas that we do talk about is testing capabilities that we have or that we may need within the county. Lastly, I listed some continued priority areas. Most of those are ones that we've been working on that will continue to be in place. But as we move forward, probably the couple of the biggest areas that will continue to grow over time are really the business and unemployment arena in the county, and then also looking at our vulnerable population and what type of services that they are going to continue to need. Obviously, the report tried to make it as comprehensive as possible. There's a lot of activities going on. There's a lot of departments that are involved. We couldn't do it without the support of other departments that have participated. F&O for keeping all of our buildings clean and areas where people are still working. They're operating the warehouse for us where equipment's getting delivered. We have food being delivered to that site. Purchasing has been instrumental in getting us the needs that we have, trying to find vendors and match us up with businesses. We have countless county departments that are still operational in one form or another that are continuing to prevail in very difficult situations, and obviously some higher risk situations with putting their employees out in the public arena. And obviously there's roads, there's public works, Just if you didn't know too, for Public Works, Candace Miller actually loaned us, if you will, Dan Heaton, her PIO, so he's been instrumental and been working with us essentially from day one. Obviously, you have the criminal justice system with the jail, the JJC, the courts. Our public defender did come on board during all of this, and he started and he's been instrumental in helping with getting the jail counts down. Prosecutor's office has been great in helping with that system as well, and keeping their activities going. We have a host of departments such as clerks and treasurers that are keeping their functions going through online assistance for people. So we really would just like to point out that it is a countywide effort, community effort, and we're very thankful for everyone's participation and their help and coordination. Also like to thank the commissioners that have reached out to us with support and or any areas where you've had us look into. Some of you have given us ideas on where we can find equipment at to go after, so that's very helpful. The hardest piece in these types of emergencies and disasters is that coordination piece and trying to keep everything centralized as much as possible so that the same information is being given to people. So we're very appreciative out of the EOC and the exec's office that everyone is cooperating with those messages and coming back to us for answers and guidance. With that, I'm going to go on to the summary of resources report for PPE. That's up on the screen. I believe you can see that. Just wanted to give you a quick glimpse of basically all the equipment that we are taking in one fashion or another. We've had equipment donated from a number of sources. We've had equipment come in from the colleges, the schools, from the Strategic National Stockpile, or the SNS. You probably heard about that on the news, that the feds have pushed towards us. We've gotten supplies from the state of Michigan, Region 2 North, DTE has recently made some purchases, and that is outlined below. You can see the quantities, you can see what's been distributed, you can see what's in our remaining inventory right now. I can tell you some of those numbers. Again, this was based off of April 10th on Friday. Some of that remaining inventory has already gone out the door in the past couple days. And when we look at the areas that we are serving and getting this PPE equipment to, it is all three of our hospital systems. It is those long-term care facilities, home health locations, and our first responders, our own employees have been benefited from this, and all the hard work that has gone on this area to try and procure it and organize it. We had a commitment early on for obvious reasons that we don't want anything sitting in the warehouse or the facility, so as quickly as we can get it inventoried, do some reassessment of the needs out there, it's right back out onto the street into the hands of the people that need it. I'm now going to switch to the finance report. I'm going to kind of run through that and just highlight some of the items. Again, roughly 1.9 million is where we're at on expenditures. When you look at the revenue account, that 140,000, that is made up of the three items that came from community action today. The two health department items that were mentioned, those are in health department's general fund. The small business relief funds are not in the grant yet. But as much as possible, we're going to run new items through this financial account. There are some programs such as the health department, may happen in emergency management as well, where there are existing grant programs that are already out there, and now they're coming back and giving additional money. So those are going to stay in those home departments, but we will track all of that. And I do want to mention the report is in the packet if you haven't seen that. Tracking salary and wages, we have in there, when you look at salary and wage base pay, in that line item, we're trying to account for those employees that have been reassigned and volunteered. While it's regular time, we're not sure if that's going to be reimbursable or not. So we wanted to try and extract that early on. So people who have worked in one department and have gone to work in the Meals on Wheels program or the phone bank, we're trying to capture those numbers within there. Obviously, there's overtime that's been is expected. There's several departments: sheriff, IT, F&O, public works, emergency management, health department, planning, that have incurred some of those overtime costs. When you jump down and go into the expenses and starting with supplies, I'm just going to hit some of the larger items, and then I can take questions. That large item for basically $1.6 million under the medical, there are some of the N95 masks that we've purchased. There's a large number that we have had donated to us, but essentially we made the decision to place a large order to serve our county, and there's benefits to us doing that from a pricing standpoint and a coordination standpoint. As you've heard on the news, there's a lot of competition out there, and everybody is fighting the same vendors. So luckily, working with our hospitals, first responders, and those other areas, we were able to coordinate that through the EOC. Looking at the resident food items for the food program that were talked about earlier and the grant funding that they're received, having to make some purchases for that. That is flowing through this program. Some items that we purchased under law enforcement, we have safety goggles. There's some cleaning supplies that we've had to purchase. Sanitizer coming out of supplies other that have been purchased by various departments. And then other support services that's coming out of MCA and the program that they're running through. You look at our professional services, we've had some help with our web design and some of the videos that we've produced. And then lastly is capital expense. There's been some computer equipment items that have been purchased, most notably for our firewall. We've had to make some expansions there for the remote access that we've done for employees working from home. There's headsets that have been purchased and cell phones for those operating the hotlines that we've established in the county. And with that, I will stop talking. Obviously, the extension request we put into June, just sticking with our original request to go into June. We believe that need will continue. We're obviously very cautious about any stay-at-home orders being lifted too soon. If you're paying attention to any of the modeling that you see done locally in the state or nationally, please keep in mind that all those models are based on stay-at-home orders that are currently in place, staying in place till the end of May. So we are hopeful that a majority of that continues, while we may have seen some plateaus in our numbers. We're very cautious about that and things getting back to normal and getting back to normal too quick. Last time I spoke, we spoke about the whole transition period, even when that does happen, that'll probably be a slow transition and a slow opening, not only for the community at large, but for the county itself with our departments and our employees. And now with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, Vicki, I have a whole list of them. I will say that you're right. You asked for it to be extended till June 12th. We put on the resolution to extend it till May 22nd because we have another full board on the 21st, and that's, I think, like 35 days. And I know Oakland County and the state legislature only extended their respective orders till the end of this month. So again, you won't have another problem if this is still necessary at that time. I just wanted to let you know, and you'll see that probably by the vote today. But I have a lot of questions for you first, or comments. So Commissioner Drolette's on the line first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Vicki, for that report and for all the work you and your team and the folks that are involved in responding are doing. So tremendous amount of pressure and responsibility and work and it certainly is going appreciated by me at least. I'm sure many others. I just have two questions. One, you said in the very beginning that there are 23 local declarations that have been put forward, declarations of emergency. And I guess the question I have is, are those required? In other words, suppose some community doesn't do a declaration of emergency. Does that impact how the county interacts with that local community in any way?
It doesn't impact how we interact with them. What it does impact is any type of emergency orders or changes to their normal policies that they may want to institute. We ask them to put a local declaration in place if they're going to have to move personnel around, take different equipment in, try to speed things up in the emergency. And then the other concern that we have is for any reimbursement of funding. While they generally tell us that we're covered if the state declares, and then that they're covered if the county declares, there have been some times where funding has been denied to local jurisdictions from a certain pot of money because they did not declare themselves. So that's the extra added protection that we ask them to declare as well.
Okay, so it's not that we're going to withhold any sort of support unless they declare or not. It's just to make sure that they can maneuver within their own municipality as they need to, and in case there's some pot of money that comes down that requires that declaration, essentially.
Correct. We would not deny them any type of assistance or mutual aid or anything like that.
Okay, and my second question is the small business relief funds. I think most of those came from the state. Is that correct? The money itself?
Yes, 800,000 came from the state.
Okay.
100,000 from First State Bank, and 30,000 came from planning.
Okay, I guess my concern with that is I don't know that it's possible to fairly distribute $900,000, which is a lot of money, but isn't when you consider the amount of businesses that are being severely impacted by this crisis. I don't know how I would decide which company gets some help and which company does not get help. Is it, you've had a lot of applications for this. Maybe a lot of people who didn't apply who might not even be aware that it existed. But, of those that apply, how do you tell somebody no when they had to close up their local pet store or close up their, local store, but tell another place, yes, you get help, but you don't? I mean, is there a way to do that fairly, or is it just almost impossible?
Well, I think based on the knowledge that we had at the time and the team that planning put in place to set up that application process and set up a team to review that, and with the turnaround time that they had, they did the best that they had with the knowledge. Certainly, there may be people that were disappointed or missed out on it. But there's a lot of other funding sources that may be coming through the pipe that we hear talked about at a national and a state level. So our expectation that this won't be the only type of opportunities for businesses to benefit in some sort of relief. But we obviously have an excellent planning and economic development department led by Vicki Rad. And they put a great team in place to manage that process and, try to make quick decisions as well so they can get the money back out to those businesses that need it.
Well, I don't envy their job because that had been very, very difficult. And I don't think there's a system that any human being can come up with that makes it fair. I couldn't come up with it. I don't know if anybody could. So I assume that process is now over. There's no other money that you're aware of that's coming from the state or federal government that will be responsible for distributing, is there?
Not at this time, nothing specific.
Okay. And just a real quick last question. In the public health department part of the report, there's a gratuity payment. Is that something that's similar, like there's extra money per hour that we're paying? Or is that something different?
Yeah, in the human resources section, the gratuity payment is the $1 and $2 benefit for those frontline workers.
Okay. Okay. Well, again, thank you very much, Vicki, for the work that you're doing and for those answers. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Vicki, for the report and for the entire team and basically all of our departments and employees for all the work you're doing during this time. Vicki, I just have a quick question on the IT section of the report. Under the ticket portion, it mentions new technology that the county's never used before. Do you have some examples of what that is?
I think some of it has been the connection for the home for the dial-in and being able to do that with VPN type access. We have new for the remote connectivity. There's different things we had to do for the phone banks and to be able to work with someone like Verizon and bring new technology in to have those systems work so that they're able to answer phones remotely. I think the WebEx program that many people are using is new as well, especially how it was distributed. I know prior to that, maybe 1 or 2 people might have had access to that, but they implemented that, I believe, across the county, and it's a enterprise solution now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you guys for all the work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Phil. Commissioner Hall, you have yourself in next, and then you have yourself in like 7 down. I don't know if you already have a second round plan, but maybe you can do it first.
No, Mr. Chairman, for whatever reason, my screen keeps going to withdraw request and request to speak. So anyway, let me reiterate what Leon and Phil said. I want to thank Vicki for her leadership, the entire team, and all the employees that are putting their lives on the line. I had 2 questions, but Leon kind of hit on the first one, on the administration of the small relief fund, on how it's determined and prioritized who gets the funding. But I did hear yesterday or early this morning on the news that the feds are looking at a phase 3 to supplement the small business relief fund with additional funding. So we sure hope that goes through. My second question, Vicki, it's under equipment and supplies. It looks like an astronomical amount of equipment and supplies was purchased for mass PPE and gloves and testing, knowing that it's certainly not enough and the difficulty it is in trying to acquire it. How do we stand on those emergency items up to and including testing on getting it to those that need it?
Well, it all depends on what groups you're talking about and with their needs that fluctuate. I'm going to ask Brandon, if he's on the line, if he can talk about it a little more in detail, because he's been heading that piece up.
Thank you.
Brandon?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Brandon Lewis from Emergency Management. So, yeah, as Commissioner Haw noted, we've had a very, very high number of these PPE and other response supplies come through, and we're working very hard to push them out. We've managed so far to take care of a 30-day distribution to all of our first responders of the PPE that they need to do their jobs, and we're actively working to source more. In fact, we should have enough in the next week or so to cover another 60 to 90 days for them. We've been working actively with our hospitals to get them things like N95 masks, isolation gowns, face shields, and things like that. And at this point, with help from some of our partners at the state, we've managed to push out an adequate about 30-day supply to them as well. One of the areas we've been working really hard on is long-term care and home health. A lot of the supplies that you still see remaining in inventory today are going out to our long-term care and home health facilities. Those are more isolation gowns, protective masks, and and things like that. Those are going out today. So we're starting to stabilize. I don't want to say we have enough, because it's very, very difficult in this climate to source enough of this through our current supply chain. But I think given the circumstances, our team here has done an excellent job of working to get an adequate supply of some of these PPE needs into the hands of those facilities, while at the same time continually working to get more to push out to them as we get it. I hope that answers the question.
It does. And once again, thank you and the entire team for all they're doing. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Leonetti on deck.
All right. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, you're fine.
All right. Vicki, good to see you. Well, good to hear from you. Brandon, good to hear from you. Again, I'll reiterate what all the other commissioners are saying for everybody in Macomb County who's working on this. Thank you very much for the work. Vicki, I got a couple questions, some of which might be a little bit, we're going to want some answers. First of all, when you talked about, and Brandon, you might want to answer this too, when you talked about some competition, getting resources, from the federal government or even in competition among the other local counties, has there been difficulty with that, or do you find that your needs are met?
I think for the most part early on, it was a little difficult. But because of the research that Brandon did and Larry Lee did, they were able to find a vendor that we are actually on our second order of PPE with, and they've been proven reliable. It's a new vendor. But I have to say, once, we got a push from the state through the SNS supply, we're waiting for another shipment from them that's supposed to be coming, a large one. So we're hoping that is on its way and will be here soon. So initially, I'd have to say within those first couple weeks, it was a little scary, and it was hard to find vendors. I think, the federal government, looking at it nationally, had a lot of tough decisions to make, who gets what, and some of that is still continuing. But we had a lot of great efforts from our partners in the community that were creative too, especially when we talked with the schools and then they were closed. It was like, oh, wow, you guys are closed. You have equipment. With the college, you have labs, where you have some of this equipment stored that you use for students in your classes that, obviously, unfortunately, won't be taking place in the classroom that we can use elsewhere. So I think with what we've gotten, we feel that we're in a really good place, and that we'll be able to continue to get shipments as we move forward. And I think the position we're going to end up wanting to be in is actually having an inventory of equipment on hand.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into my second line of questioning, because I was looking at some numbers, and to focus you, I'm going to focus in on they just printed it at 3 p.m. today, the recent numbers of confirmed cases and reported deaths that they break down county by county and with the city of Detroit as an exception. Because when I look at those numbers, and this was brought to the attention of me by even a person who's in the medical field, if you look at Oakland County today, Oakland County, their reported number of cases is 5,364. The reported deaths they have are 364. Now, when you take a calculator and you do 364 and you divide that by 5,364, that comes out to about a 0.67% death rate, I guess, if you want to call that. When you look at Wayne County,
6.7.
You've got 393 of reported deaths. If I divide that by 5,205, you got 7.75% death rate, I guess, if you want to call that. Now we get to Macomb, and this is maybe where we were getting a little shortchanged, what I'm a little bit worried about. But this is something that maybe we can use to make sure we're not shortchanged with the next wave of supplies. If I take the current number as of today, 293, and I divide that by 3,620, we're at 8% of a death rate. That's higher than Macomb, that's higher than Oakland, and that's higher than Wayne County. And even if I do the city of Detroit, we're a little bit higher than them. So, I hope that that's not the result of the competition that unfortunately we were put on the short change of getting supplies that sounded like they were necessary. And again, my other question with relation to that is these are numbers that are reported. How are those numbers reported? Who does that information come to? Does that come to you guys from the hospitals and everybody in our community, and then it's sent to Lansing? Because again, reporting could be, I don't want to sound like the president and say China's underreporting and Russia's underreporting. I trust you guys in your reporting. Are these numbers come through you and then sent to Lansing?
Bill, are you on the call still?
Hey, this is Bill. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Why don't you go ahead and explain, please?
So, Commissioner, all of the health departments are using the Michigan Disease Surveillance System. So there's one data system where all of the COVID-19 and any infectious disease is captured. So all of this data is coming out of one system that all of the state is using. Laboratories, healthcare providers, hospitals, anybody that knows about a positive case has to enter that as required by law into the data system, and any deaths that are reported as being COVID-19 are entered into that data system. The timing of all of this is sometimes challenging because of lab tests that haven't been received or confirmation on deaths, but it's reliable data. It's what Michigan uses for all of its infectious disease. And so these are reliable numbers.
Okay, if we look at those numbers, Vicki, the main thing I want to stress is that, look, maybe we're not getting enough of the stuff that we're supposed to, because we're a little bit higher on the percentage than some of our other counties that are local. And so, I think that's something that if our reporting is accurate like that relative to the other counties, I think that's something that we need to stress is that, hey, we're not getting what we need. I look down and I see it in Wayne County. The Army Corps of Engineers went down there and they, at the TCF Hall now, as it's called, they've got this giant 1,000-bed facility. Does Macomb County need something like that? Should Macomb County have some attention like that? Can people from Macomb County go down there and be treated if they have COVID-19? I guess those are some of my questions.
Right. And that's part of our surge planning that we've done with the hospitals and the health department and EMS providers and the TCF Center and the Suburban Showplace in Novi are established to be able to take any patients that we would need to send there. Our hospitals are in good shape based on a call we had with them late last week. They're still able to have capacity within their own hospital facilities as well as within their own hospital system. So we've been monitoring that. We did have a couple sites in Macomb County that the Army Corps of Engineers came and took a look at. And then while they were doing that process, they selected TCF and the Novi site. So we've been part of that. And again, we continue to monitor that and we share some of your concerns and the need to make sure that we're involved in those processes and conversations, and that's where those coordination and partnerships come into play that are established early on before any of this happens.
Okay. All right, Vicki, I know you're working hard. There's no doubt about that. I know everybody in your team is working hard. So just keep up the good work and stay safe and healthy. Thanks a lot, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Sauger on the line. Commissioner Sauger?
Unmute.
All right, I hear something.
Yeah, Bob?
Yes, go ahead, Marv.
You hear me now?
I can.
Okay, Vicki?
Hey, Marv.
You're doing a great job, and I'm not going to hold you up on a lot of questions, but how many employees have contacted this COVID so far that are working, full-time employees?
than 10. Of the ones that we're aware of, approximately 10.
About 10? And
Yeah.
are there many over at the jail?
There are some at the jail, yes.
Okay, because that's my big concern. I know what it's like over there, and you gotta, you know, they're all in close contact. So I'm curious. I was just curious if any of them were over there. If they are, you got your hands full.
Yeah, they've done a very good job over there managing and being prepared for this. So early on, they put special provisions in place for limiting visitors. A majority of their visits anyways, previously were already being done online and through video chats, if you will. They have the personal protective equipment that they need. They've been monitoring and their employees, not only through self-checks, but instituted checks within the facility for people that do have to enter. So yes, we had the same concerns early on. But the sheriff and his team have done a really good job over there of keeping their exposure right now to a minimum. And I think part of it too is the credit to the rest of the criminal justice system too on getting some of the inmates out of the jail as well. And that's obviously helped with the inmates not to be in that type of facility, but also helped with the personnel as well, not having as many people that they need to be responsible for.
Okay, good luck and God bless you. Doing a hell of a job. Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. You too.
Thanks, Marv. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, wow, this is just an excellent detailed report, and it really shows and makes us very proud of the team you're working with, as well as all of our employees. I would like to take some highlights from your report and put it out in the community to let them know how hard Macomb County employees are working, if that's okay with you.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. I have 3 questions. The first is, with regard to the PPE, what at this point in time do you consider you're still most in need of?
It would be gowns. Those have been really difficult to source. And while we have had a small supply come in, everyone really within the medical field needs the gowns.
Okay. All right. And I'm just going to ask point blank, Commissioner Leonetti sort of went down the path. There have been reports of orders that were placed. I know of one out of California that was diverted to the federal government for FEMA. Have you had any experience with the orders you've attempted to place be diverted elsewhere?
Not that we're aware of, no.
Okay, good. This next question, I don't expect you to have an answer right now. You might off at the top of your head. There's been a little bit of confusion down here. Who would, and I know that once a community has declared an emergency, they have to declare a coordinator to communicate with the county. Do you know who East Point's designated emergency coordinator is?
Yes, they have those in place all the time that we work with on a daily basis. And for the city of East Point, it is Nick Sage in the fire department.
I know him well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the last thing I was going to say is, I know with the next push at the federal level, NACO and the Michigan Association of Counties joined in on a letter doing a hard push for some of the funds to come directly down to the local level, like a CDBG type of thing, just big block grants. And there's a lot of lobbying on how that's distributed, and just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have a call tomorrow scheduled with CDBG administrators too. We have a lot of those types of calls going on. But yes, thanks for the heads up. It can be difficult to track all of that and all the notices coming down with the different funding opportunities.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano, you're on next. I don't think you've gone yet in this round.
Thanks, Chair. Vicki, great report. You're going to get too big of a head if everybody keeps praising you, but you're having on a great report. Vicki, that list of small business that received grants, 148 out of, I think, from the last count I heard was over 2,000. When I heard that first come out, I solicited some of the businesses in my district regarding this. Is there some way that we can get a list of the 148 businesses that did receive the grants?
Yes, we can get that through the planning department and make that available.
Other than that, great job, Vicki. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding PPEs, does Martha T. Berry have all the supplies that they need? There were reports earlier in the week that they were needing masks and shields and so forth. Have they been supplied?
Yes, they have.
Okay. What about our jail? People in the jail as well as our road patrols, do they have everything that they need?
Yes.
What about?
And they get resupplied as needed and as we have items available, but yes.
Okay. And I assume the health department has what they need. They're on the front of the line all the time. Have they received that they have everything that they need?
Yes.
Okay. What about the number of hospital beds that we have for this? There was some talk about surge planning. Have we crested, or are we still planning for a crest? And are we prepared for a surge based on what you know today?
Yeah, the hospitals we're already in surge, but they have many stages of their surge planning. So they had, typical surge planning is they stop all the elective procedures. So that was done early on. They start discharging people sooner than is normally done. That's part of their surge plan to make bed space. They stop or start using other areas of their hospitals and clearing those out. So they've been doing that all along to expand on their own internal surge plans. So they have been surged at that surge point, but they have not gone past their capacity to need, I'll say, any outside facilities or new facilities to be created. Again, they've moved patients sometimes within their own hospital systems. For instance, McLaren Macomb moved some patients to McLaren and Pontiac, as part of their, and Port Huron as part of their surge plan. So that is taking place within not only their own hospital system, but across hospital systems. When you look at the hot spots in basically southeast Michigan, there's areas like Ann Arbor that, weren't hit as hard. So we've even had hospitals send patients to Ann Arbor and hospitals there as part of that. So right now we believe we're in our talks with the hospitals. We're in a good place right now with them.
Okay, great. What about our coroner? I spoke with the coroner earlier in the week, and he seemed to be pretty comfortable with where they were at. Do we have any issues with our coroner and his ability to manage his affairs?
Yeah, we have expansion plans in place to expand his capabilities. That's part of the mass fatality planning that we've been doing for his capabilities as well as with the hospitals. So some of those provisions are in place or ready to be implemented if needed.
How often is the county count with the number of cases reported, where they're located, and the deaths that was referred to earlier? And from time to time I see a graph or a chart that shows where they're at throughout the county by community. How often is that updated?
The updates our website and our stats twice a day. First time is generally around 10 a.m. on the website, and then in the evening, generally around 9 o'clock, the website's updated by.
And that's on your emergency services website? Where would we find that at?
It's on the main page on macombgov.org. We have various links. There's one right on the main page that says Macomb County Stats.
Okay. All right. What about did we form an emergency council for the countywide emergency management plan that we're operating under? And if so, who's on that council?
We have our emergency operations center that's activated, and various departments that are part of that and part of the ongoing emergency.
Well, that's internal to our county, though, correct? And the members who participate in contact. But beyond it, is there an emergency council? The resolutions we've passed and then may pass again, talking about formation of a county may form an emergency council. I would assume that'd be councils from all the communities throughout the county. Is there such a body that meets? So these are meets by phone.
Yes, I mean there's the participation for a number of different groups. Again, we mentioned all of our emergency management liaisons. There's 3 calls that Brandon hosts a week with those entities. We talk to the hospitals, the schools. We've had a conference call with community leaders through Macomb on multiple occasions. So all of that is taking place.
What about getting to the personal protection equipment? Are we supplied? Are the supplies going to our local fire departments and police departments throughout the county? Have they been reached out to? Do they have what they need?
Yes, yes. We've been supplying them as well. They actually have right now. We asked them to plan for a 90-day supply, and right now we have out to them basically a 30-day supply. And as more shipments come in of equipment, we'll keep supplementing that as needed.
Are there any shortages going on any place in the county, anywhere in the county with any particular department or hospital or any place that's requested it, but we don't have the ability to supply them?
No, it's really more probably in the question that Commissioner Kleinfeld asked earlier, is really the area of gowns. We have requests for that are outstanding that we've not been able to fulfill.
Okay. And then getting back to some of the Commissioner's previous questions regarding the Small Business Relief Fund. Yeah, if you could provide us with information on the total amount that went out of that fund, how many businesses were there, how much money, who they were, that'd be helpful for us because I know that the Economic Development Department was crashed with phone calls when information went out about that, and I guess it was come first served, and if you didn't get in there early enough, you were left out, and there's still a dramatic need out there as far as I'm aware from people I've spoken with. So I'd be curious to know about that and other things that's going forward. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, Vicki. Good report, and we'll stand by for your rest of your information. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, but we can get you a detailed report, and it was not necessarily a first-come, first-served process. There was a vetting process with applications and a team put in place that reviewed those applications. But we'll get the detailed list to the board.
Could you share that with what those requirements were again, just so we've got a thumbnail sketch of it?
Yep, we'll make that as part of the report too when we send the list out, so you know how that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. I don't have any other speakers. I'm not sure we have any other commissioners, but I will just share a quote that Deputy Executive Delden put on the chat, and I agree that Brandon and Vicki, you guys have been relentless in your pursuit of bringing calm and a sense of stability to this event, and we're all proud to be associated with you, and that goes for, I'm sure, all of us. You've always been that way through your whole career here running, the emergency management. So we are very happy to have you, so to speak, at the helm of this. So that being said, we had a motion by Duje and a second by Sauger. So everybody, please vote.
That motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Vicki, thank you again.
Yep, thank you. It's great to have a great team to work with in the county and good, strong leaders and employees. So thank you very much.
All right. Talk to you soon. Item 12A, ordinance 20-02, an ordinance to establish the compensate of Macomb County's countywide elected officials pursuant to section 10-11.1 of the Home Rule Charter of Macomb County. Can I get a motion for this?
Motion to approve, Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you.
Support Leonetti.
All right. I have Leonetti speaking over somebody supporting, so I'll call you Leonetti. Any speakers on this? Sorry, I don't have this up in front of me, so hold on 1 minute, please. Excuse me. I do not have any speakers, so that being said, please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Item 12B, ordinance 20-03, an ordinance to establish the compensation of Macomb County Commissioners pursuant to section 10.11.1 of the Home Rule Charter of Macomb County. Can I get a motion for that?
Motion to approve, Harold Haw.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
Lucido, support.
Thank you.
Sauger.
Oh, Marv, you're a second late, but thank you.
Okay.
So let me see. Let me just double check here. I do not have any speakers. If anyone's wishing to speak, please let me know. Otherwise, please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. We have a
Mr. Chairman?
Duje, yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we remove this from the table, and if supported and voted on, there is some good reasons for it. So I make a motion that we remove it from the table.
Great. Commissioner Duje would like to remove order 20-04, and that was supported by whom?
Sauger. Supported.
Okay. So Commissioner Duje, if you would like to explain this, that would be great.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, apparently,
Mr. Chairman, on a vote of tabling, there's no conversation.
Well, to untable, I believe that we can discuss it. So unless someone has anything different, I think if you're untabling an item, you can discuss it. I think tabling requires no discussion.
The tabling is no discussion. Untabling, we'll let somebody else figure that out.
Mr. Chair, this is Michael. You can have a discussion in regards to why something's coming off the table or being put on the table, but there is not to be discussion about the item itself.
Right. And what we're doing right now is getting an explanation of why Commissioner Duje wants to take it off the table. So if you could kind of limit it to that, Commissioner Duje, that would be great.
That's what I'm trying to do. Apparently, the way that pay schedules were set up originally had the county executive's portion tied in with other countywide elected officials. We've tried to split it, but right now it's still tied in with it. If we take this off the table and vote on it, then we could split it up and move forward and get this in the right sequence. As you know, the commissioners are every 2 years. The countywides are every 4 years but those are not on presidential years. And then the county exec is on a different 4-year term. So with all these four-year terms on county-wides, nothing makes sense going forward to keep all these together. So taking this off the table and talking about it frees up the original county-wide portion of the ordinance.
Okay. I think that explains it, and then everybody can talk more about it if we need to once we untable it, if we do. So right now the motion is on the table, or on the floor, to untable item 12C, the ordinance 20-04 regarding the compensation of the Macomb County executive. So please vote to remove is a yes, and not to remove is a no.
A yes vote is to remove from the table.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes 12-1 with Commissioner Lucido voting no.
Okay. Now, I'm going to look for a motion to adopt ordinance 20-04, which is an ordinance to continue the compensation of the Macomb County executive pursuant to 11.7 of the Home Rule Charter. So do I have a motion for that? Then we can discuss it if we need to.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. To adopt, and do I have a second? I have Mr. Duge to adopt and a second. Anybody, any commissioners?
You're not.
Can I get a second?
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner Sauger. Great, Marv. So I'm going to go on to the list to see if we have anybody speaking. However, this is really just to separate the executive from the other countywide elected officials because his election cycle is different than theirs. So
correct.
Somehow we mixed these in originally, where we wouldn't really vote on his normally right now, but since it's in there, we're going to just make a motion to continue what we did, I believe, 2 years ago. So it should be pretty easy. I don't have anybody speaking on this. So if you don't have any questions, please vote on item 12C's motion to adopt this ordinance.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, commissioners. Item 13, speaking of 13, 13A, need a motion to receive and file Michigan Railroads Association request to be considered exempt for any additional restrictions and future orders. Have a motion for that?
Motion to receive and file from Kraft.
Thank you.
It's a second from Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, commissioners. I don't imagine there's any discussion on this, so please vote.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Any commissioners, let me get to new business here so I can call us in order. Any commissioners with any new business? Any commissioners with new business?
Sauger.
Oh, so I have, Marv, since you jumped in first, go ahead, Marv.
Okay, I just want to correct my friend Commissioner Romano on the veterans thing. It's not the VA that's at fault. It's some of the personnel down there. I've gone down there many years, and it's not this hospital, and it's just some of the personnel are not treating the public as well. But I just wanted to bring that up to Joe so he knows I was with him and I know what he's talking about. Thank you.
Hopefully he remembers you were with him. Commissioner Hall, I have you on a list here, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give a brief update We've had numerous meetings with the retirement board and the money managers. Obviously, everybody is watching the stock market and sees how dramatically reduced it's been. Under our board, for the first time, we have fallen below $1 billion in investments, somewhere around 906 million. That is a 14 to 15% negative decline. In December, under Chairman Deldon's leadership, we rebalanced the board and our investments and moved quite a bit of money into cash, anticipating of reduction in revenue being returned to the county. The feds have put approximately $4 trillion into the market to try and keep it from going into total collapse. Most of the boards around are down some 30 to 34%. So our movement helps stave some of that off. They're expecting April and May, that was the report at the end of March, to be as dramatically bad news as this, and don't anticipate a return to some type of positive numbers until the fourth quarter of 2021. So this is a big issue that we're also dealing with in the county, and I thank you for the opportunity to report that. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, a little bit of good news amongst the bad news. It sounds like we were kind of ahead of the curve of a lot of other communities, so I appreciate that news. Commissioner Kleinfeld, how are things down in East Point?
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. Next week, the MAC board meeting, the governor will be calling in and taking our questions. So most of the commissioners, I think, are coming up with questions that aren't necessarily related to counties. So I'm trying to think of some questions related directly to counties, if anybody has any ideas. And then the second thing is on drain board. Obviously, during the pandemic, it kind of complicates things, but we would like to get a final decision from EGLE if they're going to turn down the project at Chapatin, so that Candace can figure out how to proceed from there. We'll keep you posted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have Commissioner Kraft next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quickly, at our last full board meeting, we appointed 4 members to the CMH board, and our county clerk, Fred Miller, did a virtual swearing-in ceremony before our program and budget last week. And so I thought that was pretty neat. First time I'd ever been part of that, and it was neat to see. And if you want screenshots, I sent them to Patty. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't have anybody else on the list. Does anybody else wish to comment on new business?
Yes.
Commissioner Duge.
Thank you. I wanted to let everybody know that I had people that were in the restaurant, bar, and catering hall business in touch with me for the last week about licensing fees for both the liquor and the food for the health department fees for the restaurants. The problem is that these were state mandated fees that the county administered. My understanding is the state has stepped up and said that the licensing fees for liquor are moved down to May 31st, if I'm not mistaken, and that the fees for the food, as far as the health department goes, have been postponed at least 60 days. So if anybody in those businesses gets in touch with you, tell them that the fees have been moved down. People were screaming that they can't afford the fees because they have no business coming in. So I think this is a very, very good thing. And I'm not sure how the liquor buyback business is going to work with the state, But my understanding is that is another piece of the puzzle that's going forward, and we'll see how that works out. But I wanted to let everybody know that that's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Duche. I don't really have any new business. I'll just say that I hope everybody, continues to stay safe. The thing that gets you on this is when you hear that someone 45 or 50 or 30 years old with no real other problems is succumbing to this virus, and that's really the scary part of this. So everybody, please do what you're doing right now and stay safe. I just want to point out to everybody that the filing date deadline is the 21st of April, and that is coming up shortly. I don't have anybody else on new business, so unless anyone wants to vocally tell me that they want new business, we're going to go. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
I believe if we're up for election this year, that filing date doesn't apply to us, does it?
Not really sure what that would. I mean, that's the filing date for
It's a
signing.
quarterly. Oh, the filing. Oh,
Yeah.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, good. Then we're good with new business. Public participation.
Good idea to file.
It is, especially if you're going to run this year. So, new public participation. We're going to try to take anybody from the phone that wishes to participate. Anybody wish to participate in public participation, please unmute and let me know, and we will try to get this straightened out on who would go first. So please, we'll make a second call for anybody on public participation. *6, I believe, unmute you. So I don't want to move through this too fast unless anybody. Oh, hello.
Can anybody hear me? Hi.
I can. Who is this?
Hi, this is Dr. Serpa. I'm the interim medical officer for Macomb County Community Mental Health.
Oh, hi, doctor.
Hi. I was listening to the board meeting, and I'm not really sure if Ms. Wahlberg is still on the line. I believe she is no longer in the meeting. Is she?
I'm going to have her answer that because she came from a number I didn't recognize. Vicki, are you still with us? Okay. Well, if she is, she can come in anytime she likes. But right now, it doesn't appear she's there.
Okay. Well, the reason why I was part of listening to this board meeting is because she obviously touched in a subject that is very relevant right now for our community mental health services, and it was related to the PPE. So I wanted to just ask her a few questions in regards to how Macomb County Community Mental Health could be able to have access to make any request or apply for some further assistance in regards to it. We have been able, since the start of the pandemic, we've been able to scramble for a lot of these resources, spending a lot of time online trying to, gather as many of them, not only to serve our clinics, but also our community mental health consumers that receive services through our residential programs. And although we've been able to be successful at securing a good amount of initial equipment for them, obviously it's running out as shipments get delayed and things like that. So I just wanted to be able to obtain information in regards to how I could, reach out to them, to the Emergency Preparedness Department, and be able to advocate, for these populations that we serve.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you. And you can listen if you can't figure out how to get a hold of Vicki. I know that there's their COVID website where they're taking questions like that. But I'm sure that being a part of the mental health community, that you can probably get a hold of her. individually. There's
Yeah.
no real communication back and forth in public participation, so I'm kind of happy she wasn't here anyway. So, but I'm sure someone on the line heard your concerns and will relay that to her, but I would certainly try contacting her directly.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All
Okay,
right.
bye-bye.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Boy, you're good. Well, seeing that was the third call for public participation, and I have nobody responding, I will take your motion and second, and all in favor, or if you're not in favor, please vote to adjourn. I think we caught Mike by surprise.
Yeah.
You did. We give a little bit more time for public participation.
All right. Well, while you're figuring it out, anybody can still chime in if they want. All right. Please vote to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Nice job.
Thank you, everybody.
Good job, Bob.
Good job, everyone.